The Oklahoma City Thunder keep manufacturing ways to win as Josh Giddey dominates in the Garden. All this coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for InsideTheThunder.com, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. On today's show, I'm into the Oklahoma City Thunder scrapping and clawing their way to a win as Josh Giddey dominates in the Garden. J-Dub is a star in SGA. Hits that game winner. But in this game, you saw why the Thunder are one of the best teams in the NBA, because they can conform to any style of play and they can just find a way to win. Every team in the NBA has their flaws, and one that's been casted upon the Thunder has been their inexperience. But when you watch this team play and you watch the ups and downs they deal with, you watch them make adjustments night to night and make adjustments in the midst of games, and you talk to guys like Kevin Durant who is not concerned about the Thunder's lack of experience because they have that sort of it factor, you really start to put the inexperience away. I do not believe the Thunder will be doomed by this lack of experience. I do not think that the reason why that they lose in the postseason will be from being too young. Because in this game, they're struggling against New York. They are just being out-physicaled throughout the game at different points. They were held to 17 points in the first quarter. But a great second quarter puts the Thunder up by 1, heading into halftime. Out of halftime, New York lights up 6 triples in the third quarter. The Thunder get down a dozen. They go to a zone, find some success, get down 10 heading into the fourth quarter. And in that fourth quarter, Jalen Williams engineers a 7-0 run to start the frame. The Knicks call a timeout, and it's a whole new ballgame. And so in a game where you miss way too many free throws, like that is a complete anomaly as the best shooting team at the charity stripe to go out there and only make half their free throws. And New York wasn't much better, but they were 67%. The Thunder were 50%. To only make 50% of your free throws. To get killed on the offensive glass in big moments with second chance points, including a massive second chance 3 from Brunson after he missed some very clutch free throws. To not get your typical turnover disparity. In fact, the Thunder turned it over 12 times to New York's 10. The Thunder typically dominate the turnover battle. They lost it in this game. And they shot 38% from 3. It wasn't as though they just bombed away from beyond the arc. The crowd was into it. The play was physical. The MVP was not the MVP tonight. SGA did not have it in his first game back from a quad injury. The Thunder were out-rebounded on the glass 46-43. Paint points were dead even at 44. Typically, the Thunder dominate that category. New York just eats them alive on the second chance points, 28-14. Some massive second chance points in the fourth. But the Thunder do get out and run and win fast break points 20-10, as is normal. Again, the Thunder shot 53-38-50. New York shot 41-30-67. Jalen Brunson's a very unique cover for this Thunder team who has a great defense, one of the best in the NBA, but Brunson still goes for 31 points, 2 boards, 7 assists, and a steal. Kind of a blend of that sneaky strength that he has, plus, of course, the craftiness of Jalen Brunson. That low center of gravity really helps him against the guys that the Thunder can throw at him. And the Thunder did not have it to start this one, physically, in the sense of they didn't match the intensity right away of New York, and then they eventually kind of settled in. And 3 of their 5 starters did not have a good game. In fact, you could categorize it, especially by their individual standards, as 3 of the 5 starters had bad games. 3 of the 5 starters had bad games in a playoff environment with playoff level intensity on the court and off. And the Thunder were able to go out there and win. They were able to counteract and throw a counter punch to a bigger, more physical team. And it's just another feather in their cap of a way to win a basketball game. We've seen them do it in every style, at every tempo, at every pace, from scoring bonanzas to bogging it down in the mud, to having their MVP just carry them over the finish line, to making up for not having SGA play at the top of his game, to adjust on the fly, to look and play dead like a possum for 46 minutes and then turn it on at the end to get the win. You just cannot put this Thunder team away. They're going to weather the storm. They're going to keep coming at you, and they're going to be victorious more often than not, as evident in this game in the Garden. If I told you before this game started that SGA would go out there and, labor his way to 19 points, in the fourth quarter only have 4 points total, and shoot 43% from the floor, and on top of that, Lou Dort's not shooting well. Chet Holmgren doesn't contribute offensively in a massive way. There's no way that you thought this team was going to win that game that way, regardless of any other factors. But they did, and they found a way to take advantage of what advantages that they could create. They could create Josh Giddey getting matched up with smaller opponents. They could take advantage of the fact that, whenever their one bucket getter in SGA isn't having a obscene game, they have a secondary bucket getter in J-Dub who can go get to his spots at will and knock down shots at a superstar level. So the way the Thunder are able to win this game, I think, should highly encourage you about their playoff outlook. They're back in first place in the West. That's going to be up and down for the next 8 games. Independent of where they finish in the Western Conference, nobody should want to play the Thunder, because the Thunder have shown that they can match up with anyone and they can counteract anything. And this is what they've done in the midst of an 82-game regular season and in the midst of a 48-minute game. These adjustments that you see them tweak and counteract game to game, quarter to quarter, half to half, it's all happened without the benefit of what a 7-game series brings you, where you're game planning for that same opponent for a week straight, where you're game planning for that opponent for 7 straight games with days off in between. You give this coaching staff that luxury. You give these players that luxury. I don't know who's going to want to play the Thunder. I don't know who is going to knock off the Thunder. Now, obviously, Denver's incredible. Minnesota's having a great season. All these teams, right? It's going to be a fiercely competitive West. But with each passing game and each way that this Thunder team finds a way to win, I continue to get reinforced in the belief that this Thunder team can compete with anyone. In a 7-game series, there's not a single team that I'd be floored if the Thunder won that series. And when that's the case, because you have an MVP caliber player who should win MVP, should the Thunder be the 1 seed in the West, and you have a guy in J-Dub who has every quality down to a T of a superstar, and you have Josh Giddey playing some of his best basketball of his career right now, especially this season, but of his entire career, he's playing great basketball. The Chet Holmgren variants, where he's usually just lights out. Lou Dort has shown he can shoot, and of course the bench. Like, when you put all this together, it's tough to find matchups where the Thunder aren't favored, much less that the Thunder could not win. And that's not to say it's going to be easy or all sunshine and rainbows for the Thunder, but more often than not, you put your money on the Thunder. More often than not, you bank on this team to win because they can create wins out of thin air. The Thunder had no business winning this game when 3 of your 5 starters play bad, when down the stretch of this game, it felt like you did everything you could to, lose some important offensive rebounds. The New York team got a bunch of important offensive rebounds, missed free throws down the stretch whenever you could have put the game on ice. That early Shai step back three, like these things felt like they were stacking up in the moment, and yet you look up at the end and the Thunder come away with a win. So that's all very encouraging, including Josh Giddey's play in the Garden, where he goes 3 for 3 in terms of showing up in New York and walking out with a triple-double. We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at Prize Picks. Let's go with our good friends over at Prize Picks. They're going to have everything that you need at prizepicks.com to make these games more entertaining for you. All you have to do is project whether they have more or less than their Prize Pick projections. It's a lot of fun at Prize Picks. Check them out today, because with Prize Picks, it can make these games more interesting by being just you versus the projected numbers. Not you versus any of these sharks that played fantasy sports all day long. It's just you versus the projections. So you pick 2 to 6 players and you just project whether they have more or less than their projections, and you can win that way. With the playoff action just around the corner, you can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks. That's right, 100 times your money on Prize Picks to take your game to the next level during basketball's postseason. The playoffs begin on April 20th with the play-in round on April 16th, 17th, and 19th. Go check them out today. Right now, Prize Picks is there for you. You can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks when you turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, college basketball entries today at Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Check it out today. That's prizepicks.com. Use code LOCKEDINNBA. Download the app and use code LOCKEDINNBA at prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app, with the first deposit match up to $100 getting matched right there. You put 100 in, you get 100. Deposit match, first time. Download the Prize Picks app. Use code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe across all podcasting platforms so you never miss an episode. Now, let's talk Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey's been incredible the entire month of March. There's few words that you can use to describe Josh Giddey in this month of March that would do him justice for how good he's been. Wrote an entire article on Inside the Thunder about this March turnaround on Sunday morning that you can go read in case you missed it. But I think that this is the best stretch of Josh Giddey's career because it's stuff we've not seen from him in the biggest moments. Like, yes, the Milwaukee game, 4 threes, the 5 threes against New Orleans. I understand that stuff is outlier situations. Like, you're not going to bank on Josh Giddey to hit 4 or 5 threes a game. But in the totality of March, specifically these last couple of games, you've seen Josh Giddey absolutely find repeatable success. So give him his flowers first for having 3 trips to Madison Square Garden with 3 triple-doubles, first time ever in NBA history. Anytime that you can break a Wilt record, you're doing all right for yourself. Second Thunder player ever to have 10-plus triple-doubles for his career with the Thunder. That's awesome for Josh as well. 16 points, 3 rebounds, 12 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, only 2 turnovers. Fantastic job with the 2 turnovers, by the way. For as much as he was asked to take over this game at times, to have 1 bad outlet pass and then 1 pass where like he was spinning in trouble and just kind of had to throw it away, and for a lack of a better sense, it was going to be a turnover either way, in my opinion, because he was so out of control spinning in the lane. So you might as well kind of want to lob it out to the perimeter to see if maybe one of your guys can go make a play on it, sort of like a jump ball and football in a way. But only 2 turnovers for as much as he had the ball was really good. 2 for 3 from 3, but those threes, I think, were the perfect example of, while you can't bank on Josh Giddey to hit 4 or 5 threes, you can bank on 2 for 3, with one of those 2 being a massive swing in the game to get them down 3, and then Kenny Hustle gets his charge, and then he goes down and gets a 3 of his own to tie the game. Like, that is a huge sequence to have one of those 2 threes. But the best part about this stretch for Josh Giddey is his scoring inside the arc. Something we've talked about on this show since FIBA has been the difference for Josh Giddey is not going to be what happens behind the tape. It's going to be what happens inside the arc for him in the mid-range and at the rim. In the month of March, he's having the best stretch of his career at the rim, shooting 69% entering this game at the rim. He's been phenomenal in the mid-range. He's actually been good in mid-range all year, but he's been really good during this stretch in the 99th percentile in that category. Finding success as a scorer inside the rim, getting past his defenders, and then punishing smaller guys where he's able to use his frame and length to kind of seal them off at the rim and score. He's also physically gone through some smaller opponents, not just sealing them off, whenever he does that to Dylan Brooks and the like. But when he has smaller guys on him, he can put his shoulder into them and score at the rim. And of course, he's been able to rely on that floater as well, which, the floater, of course, has some variance to it, but he's been, using that floater for a very long time in his career, throughout his entire NBA career. You saw it, of course, in the NBL as well, but throughout his entire NBA career, he's been trying to get to that floater, and now you're seeing it hit at a higher rate. I think that shooting touch from the floater is actually real for Josh Giddey. But so the inside the arc scoring, I think is here to stay, because it's not as though he's just getting like 16 hit-ahead passes and hitting wide open layups. Like he is creating these opportunities for himself at the rim, and I don't think that that's going to change. Now, does that mean that Josh is never going to have another bad night again? Of course not. Like every single player in the NBA is going to have bad nights, but in the totality of a season from this point forward, I think that he's going to be able to find his role, and I think that part of that is from the benefit of the Thunder sticking with him, the benefit of the Thunder, staying the course with Josh Giddey in these lineups, while acknowledging, hey, it's not been good enough. Like this has not been a good enough outcome for this team and a good enough season. And Josh was the first one to admit it. He said that every chance he got in his post-game pressers this whole season, that the season has not gone the way that he wanted it to on the court, and he's not been good enough. So yes, we all acknowledged and could acknowledge back then that it was not a good season for him, including Josh himself, while also acknowledging that it's going to take some time to swing around. That's something that we stuck by on this show. You can go back and listen to the podcast that was labeled, the Josh Giddey conversation, for like an all-encompassing view of the Josh Giddey saga this season after that Dallas game. The Dallas game I'm talking about, after the Dallas game. You can go back and listen to that. But, the reason you stay the course is it leads to this. Now he's figured out how to play next to Shai. He's figured out how to play with Chet. He's figured out how to play with J-Dub. This has not been a week-long success thing where he played two good games without Shai. This has been a month-long journey for him where he's played really good basketball with Shai, without Shai, with different versions of Shai, where Shai's like the guy and he's looking good, and like tonight where Shai just did not quite have it because of the injury. So like he's been able to bounce in and out of these roles very well for himself. And I think that the scoring at the rim is the most important part. And his ability to finish there has really came through this month, and it's really paid off for him, as well as cashing in big timely threes. You can do those two things. You can be extremely successful for him because of what he does as a passer, both as an inbounder and also whenever the team gets out and runs for a team that's very transition heavy. He's able to do that. And then number two, in this game, you saw that level of engagement on the glass, which is something that has to be consistent from him and has this month been consistent from him, is putting his body on guys and going and fighting for rebounds. The Thunder desperately need him to do that every single game. And defensively, you've seen him get better and better and better. Not perfect, not another worldly defender, not a defensive ace, but he's gotten better and better, as Mark acknowledged, this week. So all those things come together and build to the point where he has a 12-point fourth quarter, shooting 5 for 5 in the final frame. Josh has been on another level this week, and I think that he'll be in the running for Western Conference Player of the Week. He'll certainly be a nominee for it, if not win the award outright this week. So look forward to that as well throughout this Monday. But Josh played great. So did J-Dub. J-Dub was a superstar bucket getter. 33 points, 4 boards, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, without Shai having like that it factor or having this normal, just massive game. J-Dub was cooking, the stop on a dime mid-range jumper, and then you saw his most important skill set. That third quarter came, and New York was just raining in threes, dropping in 6 triples in one quarter, and things felt bleak for the Thunder. Things felt like, okay, Shai's not going to have it tonight. The New York's going on a run. This crowd's into it. And then J-Dub goes in transition and spikes in a massive slam into a New York timeout. He's screaming at the bench, and that was a true turning point. That was a true turning point in this game, was his energy and spark that he brought on that play. Then he continues to stack plays like that. Gets a block, Giddey saves it to him, he runs out in transition for an easy 2 points. He had the floater working, he had the fadeaway working with, getting himself room to shoot. That soft touch, it is real from J-Dub and has been consistent for J-Dub, but we've also seen this year his ability to overpower guys physically, which leads it all the way back to he's another guy you add to the list of how do you defend him. If he can do this stuff where he's creating space by shying away from you in the sense of like using his balance and body control to hit movement shots and to fall away from the basket and to just float up before he gets to the rim pressure, if he can do all of that while also barreling forward toward you, it really hurts you whenever you're trying to defend him in terms of where do you even position yourself, much less how do you attack him on the defensive end. The motor to be a two-way guy doing this, especially in a game like this where he had some stops. When the team really needed to dig in defensively, he got deflections, he got stops, he saved loose balls. He did all that he needed to do in this game on that end of the floor. And the way you describe J-Dub is that of a superstar. And I think that people are very hesitant to put him in that category because it feels greedy or because it feels like there's just no way that this team can have all the success again. There's no law against it. Like the way you describe J-Dub and the way that he produces is that of a superstar, and he's a superstar, flat out, period. So him and Josh were just awesome in this game, and the two reasons why you won this game were from Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams. And to circle back for Josh Giddey real quick, exceptional passing game from him. I know that like 12 assists, is really great, but like you wouldn't consider that like a phenomenal like out of this world game for a guy like Josh Giddey. But he should have had like 15 plus assists. Like this could have been a crazy game. Again, 12 assists is great. It is great. Let me phrase it there. But it could have been like a 15 assist night from him. You go back and watch the way he set the table behind the back passes with Dort, with Chet, with wide open threes, that if those guys hit it, which you wouldn't be surprised if they did, if those guys hit it, you're now talking 15, 16, 17 assist night from Josh Giddey. Obviously, that's part of the assist game, right? You're going to miss threes. You're not going to hit every shot you take, but he was really setting the table for this team, even got a couple hockey assists as well. So those two guys, you just could not have asked for a better outing from them. Let's talk SGA coming up. Let's talk the bench coming up and get your takeaways. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Amazon Fire. Check them out today. That's the Amazon Fire TV. You can go and have Fire TV be your destination for sports, live games, highlights, and in-depth analysis. That's Fire TV that offers you the most amazing viewing experience with your smart TVs, as well as with a Fire TV stick if you need to plug it into an existing TV to provide you access to these millions of movies and TV episodes and free and live TV, whether it's opening weekend of baseball, whether it's the March Madness tournament, or you just want to have Fire TV. Check it out today because Fire TV really and recently created this Fire TV channel to deliver you a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes us at Locked On. It's going there because you can find the most in most of the biggest pro sport leagues, college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into the game with deeper analysis, highlights, and more. Keep up to date with the world of sports from March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention the great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Go check it out today at Fire TV channels on the Fire TV app or the Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire channels, you should, because the Fire TV is fire. Trust me. Learn more by visiting Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV, Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms so you never miss an episode. So SGA hits the game winner, and like that's going to be the cherry on top. And it's a great play that ties back into Friday night. Whenever I asked Josh Giddey about ATO plays, and he mentioned how guys are scouting for it way more and teams are scouting for it way more than you're used to, and they're coming up with these counters to these plays, and it's the same play they ran against Toronto, but it ends up getting Shai a baseline jumper instead of the cut. It just was great stuff. Shai's game winner was awesome, and he had ice in his veins to knock down that game winner. It was even made more impressive by, here's a guy who was laboring at times in this game. His legs didn't look under him on some shots. He starts the game with the baseline fade. You think, oh, maybe he's back. Like maybe those off days were great for him. Middle of the game was not great to him, was not kind to him. Into the game with a baseline fade away for the win. There's a lot of different ways you can go with the SGA thing, but the most important one right now is that after a 19-point, 3 assists, and a steal game, shooting 43% from the floor, 1 for 3 from 3, he's still able to knock down that game winner as this bona fide killer. And you have the pieces to put him in that position despite him not willing you there. I think that's very impressive. I think that's very important for this Thunder team. Now, independent of all that fun stuff about the game winner, I thought at times the Thunder were like forcing him looks a little bit. And I think that partly was just the Thunder, his teammates wanting to try to get him going after a couple games off and kind of returning from the injury. I think that you also look at him and you say, well, why is he even playing? He's limping around. He's not moving great. Like, why is he even playing? And this is something we talked about Thursday and Friday. If you listen to the show, you can sometimes see the future. And Mark said it best after the game. They're not going to put him in a position to further hurt himself, or if he wasn't ready to play, they wouldn't play him. But it is a quad contusion, which is a deep bruise. Like, what can you really do for that? The rest can only do so much. It's just something you deal with and you live with until it goes away at some point. And apparently Shai's at that point right now. So I don't freak out and think that the Thunder rushed him back, because I think that it's different whenever you're coming back from a bruise. Like, again, not the minor the injury, but in the most layman's of terms, it's just a really deep, really, really painful bruise. It's not as though he's rushing back from a rolled ankle or a torn ACL or anything like that. This is something that's going to just hurt like crap, and you don't like whenever it gets hit. It's a contact sport. It's going to get hit. But, I think that Mark said it best. Like, there's just not much you can do. There's going to be pain. Like, that's what it's going to be. And I don't think that it'll play in back-to-backs probably. So maybe you got to pick your poison with this week of, like, do you want to play him versus Philly or versus Boston? Now, that's just what I think. That's not something that I know. But I don't think that he'll play in back-to-backs. But in the overall view of, like, why'd he play, period, I just think that there's a lot of procedures in place to ensure he didn't come back too soon. This is just how it's going to look for a little bit until this injury, I think, heals for SGA. But we'll see. We'll see. He had a great driving kick to Gordon Hayward for 3. Nonetheless, Chet Holmgren struggles in this game. New York plays a very taxing style of physical basketball that was not great for him. But overall, Chet did not move very well. He did not have good body positioning on either end of the floor. And he fell and looked like he hurt his elbow at the end. We'll see what his elbow situation is like on the next injury report. But 2 for 8 from the floor, 1 for 6 from 3 is not good enough. 5 points, 5 boards, a block in 26 minutes. Yeah, Chet was not great. I will say that, like, he's played every single game this season. After not playing basketball last year in a real game because he was hurt all year, he's played every single game this season. We've seen the start of the year and the post All-Star break run. We've seen him have a ton of success with those fresh legs. You're going to get fresh legs here soon because you're going to have a whole week off before the playoffs. That's going to do wonders for him. And again, not to discredit New York. This is a good matchup for New York to counter Chet, and they did just that. Lou Dort, 4 first-half fouls, ends up with 5 total. Some of those were just blatantly bad fouls. But he also didn't help his cause, going 1 for 5 from 3 with 4 points, a rebound, and an assist in 28 minutes. Cason Wallace starts in place of Dort in the fourth quarter in the second half because of foul trouble. And he played just airtight defense on Brunson late in this game and knocked down a couple big threes, 6 points, 2 boards from him. Aaron Wiggins just continues to beat the drum of needing more minutes. If this is how things are trending, you have to play Wiggins over Hayward in the playoffs without a doubt. The hustle plays are unbelievable. He saves a ball earlier in the game that generates the Thunder 2 easy points. Late in this game, he just wrestles away a missed free throw, kicks it to Dub. Dub hits a floater to take the lead for the Thunder after being down 12. 4 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. And then I think that Jay Will was just a better overall option for the Thunder just in this matchup. I would like to see him and Chet play together some in this one. He had 8 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 for 3 from 3, banked 1 in. I think that Jay Will also, just as a minor note, is getting much better as a screener, laying harder screens, but also just taking better angles. Like you see how he's angling his body, kind of diagonally to the rim, which is letting his guards get more downhill quicker and easier. So that's good for Jay Will. This is a singular note for him. But overall, this was an incredible game for the Thunder to get this win to start their East Coast trip, which will last 8 days and 5 different games. They clinch the postseason. There will be playoff basketball in Oklahoma City. Their arrival is here. Playoff tickets will go on sale. I think that they said on April 15th. Let me go pull that up for you right now because I just probably give out really bad information that I don't want to do. April 15th. No, it's perfect information. Great job by me. Monday, April 15th, playoff tickets go on sale according to the Thunder's Twitter account. So set your alarms for then at 10 a.m. on Monday, April 15th for your playoff tickets. But also, tomorrow's show will be a mailbag podcast where we're diving into all of your questions. So drop them down below on YouTube. Drop them on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. Wednesday, Sixers recap. Thursday, Celtics recap. Friday, very special guest. Your takeaways from this game. Dave says that Wiggins needs to completely replace Gordon Hayward's minutes. Yeah, we touched on that. I tend to agree. RK Anthony says, you witnessed my biggest concern for the Thunder in the playoffs. It's not their inexperience. It's not their skill. It's not their coach. It's the whistle. Small market teams typically do not get the whistle since Stern retired. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be bad officiating in the playoffs in the sense of like independent of market size, independent of stars, independent of anything. Refs are human. They're going to make bad calls, and you're going to have to live with it. You're going to have to ride the up and down of it, and the Thunder do that very well. There's other teams who, when there's a bad call, they just completely unravel, and the Thunder have not been one of those teams, which should give you more confidence about this team entering the postseason. Wesley says Jalen Williams is absolutely the number 2 guy, and it's not close between him and Chet. I think that that's obvious this season. Absolutely, that's obvious this season, and it's going to be hard for Chet to overthrow J-Dub as the number 2 guy offensively, based on just how they play offensively, in the sense of it's easier for a wing to be your number 2 guy, and it's easier for Chet to be a play finisher versus like a number 2 guy. But yeah, that's totally fair this season, especially. Jimmy says Chet looks like he can use a few days off before the playoffs. Guess what, Jimmy? An entire week off before the playoffs. It'll be a lot of fun. Thank you all who dropped takeaways down below. And of course, until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.